Hey, it's Ryan with QLZ. It has been another super busy week, but it's always good getting to chat with bands and getting to talk with people you've never ever met before. And Chris, I've never met you. I've never had the chance to talk with you, man. It's so great to meet you, man.
It's good to meet you too, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, obviously, separate ways. It's the song that's all over Active Rock Radio. It's gone massive. I mean, it's been super positive with everything. And I obviously want to chat with you about the song and a couple other things as well. But when you guys did this song, you put it together. I love when bands take a cover, take a song, put their own spin on it. But you guys really kept the passion in this song. But was it kind of the plan from the start to keep that original passion, but put the Daughtry spin on it at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, we originally wanted to do something that felt, iconic, that everyone knew, but at the same time that we could make it our song in the same way that Disturbed did Sound of Silence, and it became synonymous with Disturbed. And when we got in the studio, it just felt like magic instantly, and we knew it was special. I had no idea it was going to do what it's doing now, so we're super grateful for that. That's for sure.
Love it. And was Lzzy always kind of the first person in your mind from the start? I know you've talked a little bit about making it a duet and
Yeah,
working with Lzzy. Was she always kind of that first person in your mind with just, again, two very powerful voices?
she was the only person in my mind. When my producer, when we originally presented him, like, you know we got to do this song after I saw Stranger Things, and
Yeah.
we were all, me and the guys had been wanting to kind of find this iconic 80s song, with the synthy hook, and something that we could make heavy. And originally we had talked about doing Final Countdown, but
Okay.
all I could think about was a karate montage, So fast forward to, I'm watching Stranger Things, and I hear the synth playing, and the soloed out vocals, and I'm like, this is it. This is the song. And then I call Scott, my producer. I was like, dude, we got to do separate ways. I just saw it on Stranger Things, and we got to jump on this before anybody else tackles it. And he was like, what do you think about doing it as a duet? And I was like, let's get Lzzy. I got to
Yeah.
call Lzzy up. We had been talking about doing something for a long time, and this just felt like the perfect opportunity. And so when I called her up, she was instantly in. She's like, "This is my go-to karaoke song. I'm
Okay.
all in." So and we both live in Nashville, so we were able to get in the studio together, and it just went down like, I mean, it was effortless. And getting to watch her, she's a force of nature, as you know. Getting to be in the room and getting to witness that firsthand was just it was incredible.
Do you think if you were watching Cobra Kai, you might have gone with the Final Countdown? Was Stranger Things the key to
Well,
this?
that was what I was thinking. I was like, "Ooh, we could do this and get into the next season of Cobra Kai."
Yeah.
Um, and so, but it felt more novelty for me to sing something like that, as opposed to something that had more, like you said, more passion and heart
Mhm.
behind it, lyrically speaking and vocally. And Steve Perry is he's probably one of the greatest to ever do it. And that's a bit of a daunting task. So it was nice to have Lzzy kind of back me up on
Yeah.
that, and kind of take some of the heat in case we in case we got raked over the coals. But man, the response has just been, um, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And I was telling my manager the other day when we released the video, I'm like, these are like the best comments I've ever read about us. So yeah, man, we're stoked.
That's awesome. You take an iconic song and it's like, man, it's go one of two ways, and it turns out to be positive. I
Yes,
love it. It's a song that for us, we've been, we're still spinning it here on QLZ. I've been here a few months now, and it's a song that's in power for us because the feedback has been so great. And I know you and Lzzy finally got to
thank you.
perform the song live together.
Yeah,
A couple
yeah.
weeks ago in London, which I believe I was a little clued in on it early. Like, I think the day it was going to happen.
Hmm.
Was that a surprise for everybody in the
Yeah,
audience from the start?
yeah. We were able to keep that on the down low. and we were so pumped that she was able to make it out and get to hang with us for a couple days in London. And man, when she walked out, it was just electric. I mean, we had never performed it before, other than being in the studio, and it was a surreal moment, man. Being in that room, Royal Albert Hall is it's one of those places that you don't really get the full scope of it until you go back and watch people's videos or seeing pictures that people took, and you're like, oh my God, you don't see any of that when you're on the stage, and you got this gigantic, organ behind you that's catching the light, and it was just such a magical, epic moment that at this point it feels like a weird fever dream that it actually happened. But it was a moment I'll never forget. That's for sure.
I was gonna ask you about that venue, and you went into it because I'd looked at some photos of it today because I was like, okay, I want to remember, the venue where you guys had performed this at together.
Yeah.
It was like you've got a ton of chairs, and you've got obviously the pit area where everybody's at. And it's just like it's almost like this big cylinder that you guys, looking from one angle, it almost looks like you're in the middle of.
Yeah, it's weird because they have seats behind it, but they didn't sell those on purpose because we were filming it, and I just think it's weird to be behind a band. I remember when we toured with Bon Jovi on our first record, they had this stage that had almost like a half moon stage behind the stage that he would go up on. So the entire arena was sold around it, and we're facing 80% of the arena while we got another 20% behind us. So you feel like you got to constantly turn around and perform to them as well. And that's just such an interesting feeling being on stage. I like having everything in front, unless it's a round stage where it's designed for that sort of thing. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting, surreal venue, especially when you think about Abraham Lincoln spoke there. What I mean? Albert Einstein, obviously the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the list goes on. So there was a lot of pressure for sure.
No, that's cool. I mean, like I said, man, you guys have been knocking it out with this song. You've also worked with Lejean of Seven Dust. Seven Dust is one of my top bands of all time.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that you'd love to work with? Obviously, you've got Lzzy on the resume now. You've got Lejean. You guys did Hunger Strike together. Is there anybody else that you're like, man, this is my bucket list of who I'd like to work with next?
Oh man, I've got a long list. David Draymond and I have talked about doing something together.
Okay. That'd be sweet.
Ball guys got to stick together, right? And Johnny from Nothing More, we've kind of kicked around the idea of doing something. It would be cool to maybe team up with Corey Taylor at some point. There's just so many people I respect in this industry, and I'm very fortunate that I've gotten to work with a lot of them. So, at this point, everyone just feels like it's bonus. But God, there's so many. As a vocalist, I'm always, I love when a vocalist inspires me or makes me jealous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Lzzy is certainly one of those people. What she's able to do with her voice. So that was, that was, at the top of my bucket list.
No, that's awesome. And that's a good list you mentioned. I mean, Corey, David, I'm a huge Nothing More fan. So Johnny and
dude, those guys are incredible, man. Those guys are phenomenal. We got to do a show with them at Blue Ridge Rock Fest last year, and I've known Johnny for a little bit, but I've never gotten to see them live. And I was just like, man, that's the real deal.
The Scorpion Tail.
Yes, dude. so many moving parts. I'm like, how do you even, like, it just looks like an accident waiting to happen. And he's barefoot the whole time,
And I think they welded it together themselves. I'm pretty sure.
They're some smart dudes.
Yeah. So, what else you guys got coming up this year? Again, I know you guys have had a couple records out since 2019. Since you guys started doing your own thing with Daughtry. Kind of what else can we expect from you guys for?
We've been in the studio working on new stuff, man, and we got a couple shows coming up this week in Hawaii, and then when we get back, we're going back in the studio, and man, things are cooking.
London,
sounding good.
London, Hawaii, getting
Yeah,
man,
and
that sounds
we
amazing.
got something coming up in Cancun. Like we're just looking for warm climates at this point.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Chris, before I let you go, man, thank you so much for the time. Before I let you go, I got a question for you. I want to end things on. It's a question I used to ask bands at my last gig, and it was a blog post. It was about
Okay.
complete albums, your favorite complete albums from all time, of records you start to finish. You listen to, you don't skip one song on them. And I've been asking bands now this week in person, or as much as in person as it can
Yeah.
be. But your favorite complete albums, like how many you can think of, and or how many your top ones.
Throwing Copper, from Live, Super Unknown, Dirt,
Mhm.
Anima.
Okay.
God. I gotta say, man, newer stuff, Spirits from Nothing More, top to bottom,
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
masterpiece. Yeah, I told Johnny, I was like, dude, this is my favorite album all year.
Mhm.
So that's the most recent.
No, I love it. It's a great, every record with them gets better and better. And you mentioned Dirt.
Absolutely.
Three of the four people this week have mentioned Dirt, and it's like Alice in Chains is my favorite grunge band, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool to hear.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That was a transformative record for me, for
yeah,
sure.
so I've been loving picking everybody's brains on this. So again, Chris, dude, I know you're doing a ton of stuff today, man. I appreciate the time. So thank you so much for stopping in.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you, man.